Okay. Look at that. We're recording.
Yo.
Hi.
You're not supposed to say anything. It's my introduction, fucker.
Okay.
Everybody always does that. I love this fucking show because all of us act the same. Everybody's like, hi. Hold on.
Well, when someone says hello, we're supposed to say hi back. I feel like that's pretty common.
Sometimes. Hold on. I didn't want to start. Like we're recording, but we're not live. Hold on. Stand by.
Okay, well, I'll shut up.
What the fuck? We are live. Well,
Look at it says meeting
yeah,
is
it
now
says live.
streaming.
Yeah, hello. Good
Hi,
morning.
world.
Salutations, motherfucker. It's Suit Man here. We're running on CPT a little bit today. Sorry about that. We apologize, right? It happens. Whoa, we're here though. We're here. Good news. We're here. We're on time. Bad news. Janejira is not feeling the best. So, unfortunately, well, we would love to have all of our guests here and all of our people here. Our host is unable, our co-host is unable to be here. So if you know Janejira, feel better. If you don't know Janejira, oh well, fuck it, we'll figure it out. Our guest is here this morning, though. That's the one that matters. Our guest today, he's a cool guy. I met him at the Savage Henry Festival. He was fun. We go to the Savage Henry Festival. We'll talk about that in a little bit, but it's different. It's not your usual. How do I put it? It's not your usual festival. Like people go to a festival and they're expecting like, I don't know, like structure. Maybe not so much structure. You know what I mean? Like they're expecting people to like not just be there, but like have a great time. And then like you go to the Savage Henry thing, and it's like, whoa, we're here.
We're there. We're having a good time.
We're doing a whole bunch of drugs. We're definitely
everyone is doing all the drugs constantly. I feel like that's the appeal for most folks, for a lot of folks at least.
I didn't know that, but give it up for our guest today, Rudy Tyburczy. Hey, I think I got it right?
You nailed it. Good job, Dante. It's Duante, right?
Oh, you son of a bitch. You've seen my set. But tell us a little bit about yourself. What's your name? Who are you?
Yeah, what's up? Hi, my name's Rudy Tyburczy. Yeah, I've done comedy for a little while. I lived overseas for a lot of years. I lived in Seoul, South Korea, and that's actually where I started stand-up. Personally, there was a comedy scene there, and so I've done it for about 13 plus years now. And I'm from Eugene.
You said you started doing comedy where?
In Seoul, South Korea.
I thought that what you said. Like that is not. Let's think. Hold on here. That's not the. That's first.
that's not the comedy capital of the world that everyone's expecting.
No, I don't even think it's fucking close, man. What were you doing in Seoul at the time?
I was just an English teacher. So there's a big expat community of primarily English teachers and military. And so that was a lot of our audience. We had a weekly mic in Seoul in the foreigner area. And then we also put on monthly shows kind of around town and around the country even. And then we brought over headlining comedians. And that's kind of how I started both performing and producing comedy, was just living in Seoul, South Korea, because it's like, hey, there's a bunch of expats, a bunch of teachers, and yeah, there's Koreans definitely who came out to shows, but it just wasn't something that was common at the time when we started. Even though now there is a bit of a Korean stand-up scene. Started Danny Cho, who's a very funny comedian.
I don't believe you.
Well, I'll tell you what. Go to any major city in Asia, look up stand-up comedy, and you'll find a scene. You can go to pretty much any big city if you're traveling through Asia and be like, hey, I do comedy too. Do you got any shows coming up? I'd love to be on them, because there's a lot of, that's how I made a lot of friends, and that's how I traveled. There's, I was on shows in Japan and China and Taiwan and Thailand and Vietnam. There's all sorts of stuff all over Asia. So
you gotta say it right. It's Vietnam.
I pardon my pronunciation. They would.
Sorry, every time I hear that, I think of that fan. Vietnam.
Vietnam. It's one of my favorite countries. Love that place, actually. Have you ever been?
I'm black, and I've never been in the armed forces. So
okay.
No, definitely the fuck not. There's no, never mind. Not in a bad way, but there's a million other places I'm going.
You're missing out. Vietnam's one of my favorite countries.
Before I go to Vietnam. Have you been to Bora Bora? Well, let's go back. Why did you choose Seoul, Korea? Like, were you that? And I'm not here to say right or wrong, because I was almost this gringo. But when I was younger, I was like, we can go nail a whole bunch of Japanese chicks and teach English. You know that,
right? That's a part of the contingent who moves abroad. That is definitely a part of the people.
We're talking about some things here. I just want to make sure we're being honest. Were you that gringo? I'm gonna go get me an enemy chick. Let's go.
I can say I was not that gringo. That just wasn't my style when I was over there necessarily. The way I saw it, I was in Asia to have a unique cultural experience in Seoul. It was awesome. And at the end of the day, part of the reason I did comedy was just to feel connected with people. Like, I'm not crazy for like doing things differently than everybody else here. That's why we do comedy, is just to connect with people. And I wasn't that gringo. I was the gringo who was looking for other foreigners to hang out with. Not all the time, of course.
I thought we did it for the drugs. Isn't that what we're doing at 7?
Seoul, oh man, people's lives were ruined if they ever got caught with drugs. Sometimes, as a teacher, as a white person, as an expat, as whoever, if you got caught with
when you
anything,
say expat, I hate it when we say words that not everybody's going to understand. What's an expat? What's that? What do you mean by that?
An expat is someone who lives in a country that their passport is not from. Okay. That's it. Just somebody who lives somewhere else in another place. And so I think it's short for expatriate or expatriated. And so, yeah, expats are non-Koreans living in Korea. And there was a lot of us. There's a big expat comedy scene in most, like I said, most countries. And there's a lot of native English speakers, but not everyone's from a native English speaking country. And so it just kind of tests your ability to communicate with a variety of people.
When you were doing comedy there, do you speak Korean, or is that the language they speak? Is it Korean, or were you speaking their dialect, or were you doing your comedy all in English?
Primarily in English. Obviously, we're all going to make some jokes about the language of the country that we're living in. And so there was some of that, but like I said, at the time I started, there wasn't much Korean stand-up. And so I would try to incorporate Korean language into my comedy sometimes. And one time I started by speaking a few Korean sentences, and some Korean guy heckled me. He was like, "Your Korean sucks." And I was like,
"Boo this white guy, boo."
Yeah, exactly. And I was like, I fucking hate this. And I got mad. I was just not expecting that.
You're in Korea. Of course he's gonna do that. How dare you?
I'm like, I should have known.
My boss.
I should have known. Every time I would try to speak with like a cab driver, someone in Korean, they would just immediately switch to English because my Korean was so shitty.
Koreans suck. Why you not speak English?
That's a lot of what was happening. It was seriously, they were like, oh no, we're not going to try to speak Korean with this guy. It doesn't sound right.
Well, it's funny you say that. I had a friend who owned a bar, and he's taught me how, and I'd be like, "안녕하세요," and he'd be like, "Why do you say that like a gay Asian prostitute? Like, that's not how we talk." And I was like, "안녕하세요."
It's just who I become.
Right? To I and Bakari. I don't know why, but that's just yeah. I guess we do that like with other countries. Sometimes we try to pick up their accent when we speak their dialect, and they're like, no, you sound like Billy Bob speaking English. Like we're just like,
Yeah.
hey y'all, how y'all doing? And we're talking like that in their language, and they're like, you you don't. That's not proper.
That's bad. Yeah, it's funny when we put our own accent. It's like we don't realize we have an accent. The first time I lived abroad was when I was a student at university, and I studied abroad, and a guy from Wales, I remember saying like, "Do I have an accent?" And he was like, "Do I have an accent?" And I was like, "Oh, yeah, duh." Everybody.
I have an accent.
It's like, yeah, of course, everybody has an accent.
I'm not crying. We just were cutting onions in the other room, you dickhead. It's okay.
It's fine. This is just how I talk.
Yeah, you're an asshole. I know. Oh God. So we at Autastic Artists, and for those of the listeners out there, I just wanted to give you a heads up. We kind of changed our theme. We used to be the Autastic Artists. We interviewed everybody who was on the spectrum. We interviewed them all.
They were all interviewed.
There was 29 of those people.
No more.
They're no more. They're no more. That's it. So and then not only that, but a lot of people who are autistic don't always know it. A lot of people who are autistic are also neurodivergent in other ways. They're ADHD, they're ODD, they're anxiety, they're depressed. And then a lot of people, like we all know, due to the racial profiling within the neurodivergent community, go undiagnosed, especially those of color, because they get ADD or ODD instead, which is a obsessive defiant disorder, right? And then ADHD, which is the one where people just bounce off the fucking walls, like Rudy. He's
well,
like,
yeah.
We're going left, we're going right, we're going left, we're going right. We're just going, okay? We're going. We decided it's a little bit easier on us just to interview everybody who's got some sort of mental health disorders and some side of neurodiversity. And me and Jane / Hershel, who's not here this morning, they're not feeling well. We are the Autastic Artists, and you guys know enough about our autism to where we're able to kind of talk, divide, conquer, and find out more about people. So today, Rudy is our first guest that is not officially autastic, but is fantastic in some sort of way, right? He's like, yes, I am.
I'm trying.
He said, I'm trying. You're still ugly. Your mom loves you, though. It's okay. It's okay. But tell us a little bit. What is your diagnosis? What's up with you? What's your superpower, Rudy?
Yeah, well, I was superpower. That's a good question. But this year was having a tough year, and so I went to my general doctor and asked what I could do, and he gave me someone to speak with who had information on ADHD, and so we talked about that for a while, and I was like, oh, this is something I'd never really thought about, but it might fit the bill. And then I spoke with another nurse practitioner. I will also say that I have been speaking with a counselor for a year or two, for a couple years now, which I think is super valuable for everybody, but I was still struggling with my mental health. So I went to my doctor, spoke with someone about ADHD, and then spoke with a nurse practitioner, and they diagnosed me as having depression, and I met the criteria for ADHD, but those forms and those questionnaires, I think, are sometimes hard to know, like, or actually use to diagnose people. So basically,
you mean you're asking me questions and I'm neurodivergent, right? So I know why you're asking the questions, and then my anxiety kicks in, and I know if I give you the wrong answer on this question, I'm gonna get in trouble. So I'm gonna make sure I try to answer this thing the way I want you to think I am, right? Am I wrong? Is that what you're getting at?
No, yeah. So it's like, what am I supposed to do? How do I answer this thing appropriately? Is it the way I actually am, or
The way
think
I make everybody think I am? Are we talking
think
about
I?
what I'm projecting or what I am? And
Yeah.
am I gonna get in trouble if I tell you I want to slit my wrist? I haven't. Like I haven't bought a knife, but I've thought about it. Like we've all thought about killing ourselves, but we don't do. No,
But we don't do it, and there's no space for that on the questionnaire. I can't put all that in there.
I'm glad you understand that process because I went through my interview, right, to get whatever I got going. And they were like, "So what's going on with you?" And I was like, "Well, they're like, are you suicidal?" And I was like, I mean, what do you consider suicidal? Like, fuck, have I really like contemplated this shit? Have I sat at the bridge waiting to drive off and I went, never mind. Or have I really like I want to drive off the bridge?
But not enough.
Yeah. Like
I've thought about it, but I don't want to do it.
Like, what if I change my mind? Like, you can't go back from that. Like, logically, it didn't make sense. It seemed like it was kind of a final thought. You know what I mean? And they just looked at me like, "That's a lot, sir. Can you have a seat? We haven't even in your visit yet." And I was, I'm
this
sorry.
is the waiting room.
Yeah, we're not talking about your problems yet. But I had a question about the. Like, yeah, okay, you know what I'm talking about, right? You got died. How old are you, Rudy?
I turned 40 this year. So as a 40-year-old, that was the first time I was told or found out that I was neurodivergent. And so that's kind of an interesting diagnosis to wrestle with a little bit and think about it and where it fits into your life. But the more I looked into kind of ADHD characteristics and the more ADHD doctors I followed on Instagram and TikTok, the more I kind of started to identify with some of the characteristics big time and be like, oh yeah, that totally resonates with me.
Did you feel like it was so? And here's the thing: you're 40, so I guess your origin story on becoming a superhero is kind of late, right?
Yeah, right.
But in the never too late to be a superhero, right?
Yeah, I'm getting there. I'm getting up there.
Unless you're living in your mom's basement still, then it's kind of too late. She's like, I don't want to wash your costume anymore. But with that being said, it's like that what we most people I talk to, especially with the later diagnosis, there's these trials and tribulations, right?
Mm-hmm.
And what I mean by that is like I don't know what your schooling was like. We'll get there in a second. But like for me, a lot of people are like, you're undiagnosed. And I'm like, no, I mean, nobody told me there was something wrong with me. But when you go to school half the day and then you go to another school the half the day and you catch the bus with the retarded kids and the kid in the wheelchair, guess what? You got something. They don't they don't send you to portable classes half the day because you're regular, right? Fuck you, Rudy. He's like, no, you're glue eater, right?
I didn't say any of that.
Yeah, you did. I heard. Fucking cancel. Fucking white guy said it. He said I eat glue. But it's funny because like a lot of people get mad, and I just talked about like the people in the fucking wheelchair, and somebody's, hey, he's not being. No, I'm not. I'm not being. That's what we called him. You rode the bus with the kid in the fucking wheelchair, and everybody who rode the regular bus made fun of you because they saw you leave half the day with the kid in the fucking wheelchair. So guess what? Guess who my best friend was? The kid in the fucking wheelchair, because he didn't make fun of me for riding the bus with him, but everybody else did. So they all got beat up. You know what I'm saying? So, then not only that, but like I've been a huge kid, so like you weren't gonna fuck with the kids I went to class with.
Yeah, you and Wheels were like a tandem. You
guys, yeah, you want to make fun of Wheels? Great, no problem. He'd wheel away, and my big ass go boom, 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 boom.
Big D and Wheels.
Yeah. That's the sidekick.
That's a great team. You guys had a duo from the start.
Yeah. So was this something that like, and I only preface this because like it seems like for you, your ADHD really wasn't a problem. Your depression kind of was, and then so as you're trying to like fix yourself and become a whole person, you found out these things. as opposed to like being some little badass kid, right? So this did this not affect your childhood, do you think, or what?
I think it totally did. I was always the guy who's super sensitive. Like that's still me to this day. Super
You're
sensitive.
not lying. I was like, hey, are you? He was like, how are you feeling, buddy? And I was, whoa, calm down. Put your dick.
Like I just am impacted by my day and my surroundings. I feel it, I'm there with other people. I feel deeply. Like even like I was an offensive lineman. I was a center on my high school football team. And I remember my line coach being like, "You're so damn sensitive, Rudy." So like that's just always been what I've been like. I've always been high maintenance as well. When I get jobs and I like am very specific about needing to know and asking questions like what's going to happen, what can I do, what is expected of me exactly. Like I get in the weeds a lot and in a way that people don't typically. I'm like, I just want to know what I can do.
How can I help? You can't. You're white. Sit down. You're part of the problem.
I'm always part of the problem.
I know. I can tell. And so you were diagnosed ADHD. You're diagnosed depressive. Anything else?
Those are the ones that they told me, but anxiety might be in there. Everybody has anxiety of some kind or symptoms of anxiety. But yeah, those are the ones that I've been told that
I
make
think
me.
anxiety is a funny one too, because I talk to people about, I'm high anxiety, and they're like, well, why don't you just let God deal with it? I'm like, do you not understand what anxiety is? Like, that's my whole fear. You want me to let some random thing out there control my date? That's definitely the opposite of calming me. I can't
Yeah.
talk to Jesus, right? I can call Dr. Phil right now and get a question answered. Can't call Jesus, right? Like, come on, work with me here. Oh,
If you could just give it to God, then you wouldn't have anxiety.
hello, yes, that's like, can't
That's
you just let it go?
Can you just relax a little bit? Can you just do that? It's like, no.
That's the thing. I've had people like when I was dating this girl in California, and when I broke up with her, I was at one of my good friends, Jackie Pearl. You met Jackie Pearl, right?
Yeah.
She talked to me, and she was like, "You gotta stop stalking your girlfriend." I was like, "Am I stalking her?" Yeah, dude. She's like, "Just let it go." And but I can't. And she's like, "I know you can't, and I know you're in your cycle." And she started noticing that I get in cycles, right? I
Oh.
don't know if this happens to you, but if you have something bad happen, you recount it because you're trying to figure out how you could have done it better.
Mm-hmm. Totally. Definitely.
And the worst is when somebody's fucking with you or giving you a hard time and really like got you wound up for no reason of your own. How do
Mm.
you get off that cycle?
Ooh, yeah, that's a good question. I mean, because we're all faced with that at different times, whether you're a comedian or not. But when I just start to ruminate, for me, it's space. I have to give it space and time. Like I try to get away from whatever the situation is. Um, go for a walk. Getting in my body is also a big one for me. So I'm a gym guy. I just got certified as a personal trainer, and so I'm excited to explore that interest and passion in my life in a more professional way. But my safe space has basically been the gym. So it's like if I need to work something out, I can go to the gym and work out or stretch or do whatever. And so if I'm stuck in a loop, that's almost always my first go-to move is move my body, move around, do something, exercise, or eat or drink, because there's probably something that I need to do for my physical self so that my brain doesn't get caught in a loop.
You know what I usually end up doing?
What's that?
Cleaning my whole house.
Oh, that's useful.
It is.
That's good.
Because I start wanting to put stuff away, and I put one thing away, and then I'll talk to somebody on the phone and start getting in my loop, and I'll start cleaning and talking and cleaning and talking. Next thing you know, my whole house is clean. My life is not organized, but my room is. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
That's my OCD kicking it. Well, if I can't get my shit together, I can at least get my shit together. You know what I mean?
Right. Yeah. And it feels good. There's nothing I like better than having a guest because that makes me clean. That's my cleaning input. That's what starts me to get that going. Or if I'm gonna start a project, if I've just put off doing the work for long enough to like get to the cleaning phase of the preparation, I'm like, okay, I gotta clean, and then I can write this amazing novel or whatever it is. It's like I can't
clean. I gotta do steps A, B, C, and D to have a reward.
Yeah,
Treat my
very.
life like a Zelda quest. Like, is this a main mission or side quest? I think I'm getting a little distracted on this little side quest for 5 fucking rupees. It's
Yeah.
the worst when you do this like 7-hour fucking quest on a video game, and they're like, "Here's 5 rupees," and you're like,
5 rupees?
You don't play Zelda. I see that. Never mind. I'll let it go. You're a jerk. Don't hurt my.
No, it's. I'm trying to gamify my life. We're trying to make rewards for everything, huh?
Yeah. I want a Scooby snack. God damn it. So you've been doing comedy for 12 years. Are you do you feel like, well, you got diagnosed this year, right?
Yeah.
You said. Do you feel like your ADHD and comedy or something you've been using in your material before? Has it affected you as an artist, or?
It's not necessarily something I've used knowingly, but I think again, a lot of the things that you will find comedians talk about are characteristics of someone with ADHD. You look at any ADHD symptoms, and it's mostly what people are talking about on stage, like masking or being hyper vigilant about something that nobody else is. Just our weird idiosyncrasies come up in comedy all the time. And I worked one of my last jobs was with college students with autism. So college students on the spectrum. It was like a dormitory style living situation for students exploring college and university to see if it was right for them. And it was really cool to be part of that community, actually, and I liked it a lot. And it wasn't until then that I was like, I'm probably on the spectrum, like somewhere on the spectrum.
I love that you said that, because that's why we started the show. Is part of why I started the show and dating with disabilities is because I watched Love on the Spectrum, right?
Yeah.
And I was highly insulted.
Why?
Because you could tell they were all retarded. And I use that word kind of like I use that word nigga, right? I am black. I can say the N-word. I am a mental health disorder. I can say retarded. If you want to cancel me for saying retarded, nobody can say it. You know what I mean? Like, come on, man. And what I mean by that is, and a lot of people say, well, that's a bad word. No, it's not. It's the one people who act like Trump and do the, that's when it becomes a bad word. The idea of retardation and being retarded isn't actually a bad word.
No,
it's a word, right?
It's a word.
Yeah, for me, it was almost like love with Down syndrome, right? Now they have Love is Down now or whatever it is, love, right? But these guys were so far right on the spectrum. And what I mean by that is there are people like me and you that have Asperger's or ADHD or mental divergency, right? And we can be successful individuals, right? And I'm not saying the other ones aren't, but what I mean by successful individuals are we're able to mask it, we're able to quote unquote seem normal, right? Or you don't really notice it, right? Or our ticks or our things that piss us off, we've gotten so well at controlling that by now at 40 years old, you're like, well, he's fine, until you find out I'm stalking my girlfriend for 6 months. Because I can't get out of my head. She dumped me. Right?
You gotta chill out there.
Shut up. It wasn't 6 months, just 6 days and 7 hours and 22 minutes. No, you get what I'm saying? Or you have a problem with somebody and you see us spinning in the cycle where we're talking about the same thing for 4 days, and you're like, dude, why is he still talking about that? Because he hasn't figured out how to handle that, right? I haven't figured out how to disconnect to it. I haven't figured out how to process it. I don't understand it, right? And so I was highly, because and I'm pretty sure you could add on to this. There are some people that are not that functional on their own that are on the spectrum. There are some that are totally fine, and you can tell they're on the spectrum. There are some that aren't fine at all, and you're looking at them like, what is wrong with them? And you're like, they're on the spectrum. Right? But So there's so many different levels to this that it was like, I want to do a show where we talk to people that are on the spectrum about just being them.
Yeah.
A lot of these people you're not going to expect, you're not going to know, right? Like, I don't think everybody looks at Rudy and goes, he's ADHD and got issues. No, they
Right.
probably think Rudy's a great guy because you're nice, genuine, empathetic person, right? They don't know all these different things. So my goal, and please add to this if I'm wrong, was to get people to understand that this spectrum means there's a wide variety, right,
Mm-hmm.
of inhibition, special powers, like how this affects people. So I wanted people to hear it all. Was it?
Yeah.
Am I wrong? Was it like that at a college where they weren't all the same autistic kid? Correct.
Uh, yeah, for sure. There's a ton of different folks, and it presents in a ton of different ways for everybody. And that was part of the experience in my last job, was seeing, for some people, it didn't allow them to leave their room hardly more than once a day or a week. And for other people, that wasn't it at all. For me, it has been a challenge, I know, to maintain traditional employment. That's been something for my whole life. Like, it's like I can get a job. I currently don't have one, actually. I'm looking for one. I'm in the process of it. But when I moved back to the States, it was 120 some applications before I got a job. And and so it's like, it's hard working a full week of 40 hours for me. Like, that's a big challenge. And I'm trying to figure out ways to create a life that doesn't require that, where I can still use my gifts and still provide services for people that I think are valuable.
I'm with you. That's I think I've given up on a job, kind of. Like, I'm
It's
looking,
so hard.
and then it's not even just that it's hard. It's the highs, the lows. I've been in crisis situations and asked for help and not given it. Right.
Yeah.
Like, I think my biggest thing is, I'm this big black guy, so when I get angry, everybody's scared of me. So now I have to find ways to not get angry, even when people anger me. Do you know how
Mhm.
hard? wrap
It's
yourself wrap yourself around somebody doing something that pisses you off. You telling them they pissed you off, and then well, you're scaring me. That's not appropriate.
right.
Well,
Uh,
hold on.
And that's the thing. Here's the thing. I At my last job, my bosses, the neurotypical people, didn't know how to work with me, but the students, one of my students was like, Rudy, no, I've never heard anyone here say anything bad about you. You have such good vibes as far as all the students are concerned. And so it was the students who like knew someone who was like a safe person. Like, I'm not small either. And the students were like, oh yeah, my vibe counter is good right now. But people who were more 9 to 5, more traditional, it they had a harder time working with me, and that's a drag. Because I was asking for help. I asked for help at jobs, and they were like, uh,
You're an
uh
adult. You should figure
yeah,
it out. What do you
yeah,
mean? We
exactly.
accommodate students, not our employees. What is wrong with you?
And that was honestly how it kind of went down. We had a mental health conversation, and I said, I'm kind of having a hard time mentally. Like, my mental health is struggling right now, and I wasn't working there for much longer. And it was disappointing because, like I said, I really got along with the students and appreciated being a part of their day-to-day life and being a part of their community and helping them see if college was right for them, because it's not right for everybody. And you need people on your side. If you're going to try to succeed as a college student anywhere on the spectrum, you need hands-on assistance daily from people who care and who are okay. That's the other thing about people with neurodivergence, is they act appropriately or with a cool head in these crises, in these challenging situations. They're good on stage. They're good in high pressure situations. I don't know what the reasoning behind that is, but when a student is going through a crisis, you can offer them support. That's just, you just turns on and you go,
I think
which
I
is,
know what it is. It's the lack of social cues.
oh yeah.
Why is it so easy for somebody who's on the spectrum and neurodivergent to do a task that may hinder because we're not thinking about it.
That's true.
Right? Like I can remember before like 7th grade, before 8th grade basketball, and mostly after that even. Because 8th grade I started playing AAU with this hyper aggressive political team. I remember the first day I hung out with the star kid on the team, and he gave me a ride home, and he's like, "What would you do if I did this? What would you do if I did that?" And I didn't know how to play basketball, right? I just was natural. I was like, "Well, I'd take your legs out, dude. I just back you up, right? Like whatever." Well, I guess his dad was the coach. They were giving me a ride home. I'm a single kid. I just trying to get home. I'm trying to get out the car. Leave me alone, right? This kid's just on me, right? Towards the end of the year, it was, you told Teo you were going to hurt him. No, I didn't. I told him I was going to box him out. I didn't know the terminology, right? Like,
Right.
14. You've been hating me all year because you think I want to hurt your son? I don't want to hurt your fucking son. I just want to, right?
Right.
And I say that to say this is I think a lot of times sports, these pressure situations, the social ramifications of what we're dealing with, we don't know. Not only do we not know, but we're not computating, right? We're not worrying about, right? So it's not hard for, Adam to get in front of the crowd and do his speech on President whoever, because he doesn't fucking give a shit. And he put 4 hours into it, and he knows this is like Sheldon. I know this is a great speech. I did all my damn. Hey, shut up. I got 17 minutes. You're not going to interrupt me. Fuck you, right? Like, I hit record, ass. We got to go through this all over again. Everybody sit back down. And everybody's looking at him like, hey, right, action. I'm mad you did action for me. Thank you, Rudy. You know what I'm doing with this, right? But I think that's why, because we're in such our own world and our own mental production of things, right? That the social pressures, and we're not catching the cues, right? We're not catching the guy in the backseat clicking his pen, meaning he's nervous. We're not even listening to that. Or we're over.
That's me. That one's me.
Right? There's two ways of looking at that. There's times where I'm performing, and I talked to somebody about this. I watch the whole fucking room.
Yeah.
If I can see people, I see everything happening. I think the worst time I ever did comedy was in front of my ex, who's a comedian, and I could watch her talking shit about me while I was doing my set and take half the crowd out the room.
Yeah.
And I had to just do my set regular. And I was doing my jokes and I was talking regular, but in my mind, I was dying.
Yeah.
I was like,
well, sometimes that's the job of comedy, is like you are dying up there and you just have to fill the time. You got to get through it one way or another. So you either put that autoplay on and you just get through it, you just get through the material, or you succumb to the emotions of the moment and you do something either like that's maybe aggressive towards the audience again, and because I'm all about vibes. I want the vibes of the audience to be positive. I don't want, because I don't, when that Korean guy said my Korean sucked, I got pissed off and I talked shit to him for a while and I did not like that. So I don't like when I respond in those highly emotional, volatile situations. It doesn't make me feel good. It doesn't make me feel like a better comedian. And so like afterwards, when something like that happens, I'll try to like go home or whatever and be like, okay, how could I have responded in a way that I wouldn't have felt like shit afterwards? Because that's a way to show that you're aware of your limitations and that you want to grow. And that's what I want to do.
And I think that's where, I'm not saying we're all neurodivergent or all, but I think that's a lot of the fixation, the mental part. The hard part is that when we get to if we get to a street and there's a disaster, right, we just can't drive by. We're turtle. You know what I mean? We're the people that when we in the traffic, they're, hey, there's an accident on the other side of the road. And everybody's like, who gives a shit? Just drive. We're not over there, right?
I gotta look.
Yeah, and then I gotta find out why. And I'm gonna Google what happened, and then I'm gonna look at it, right? But that's I think that's what we do with our problems, especially those who have some sort of mental divergency, is when there's a problem, whether it's ours or somebody else's, we need to know. And we got to solve it. We got to know
Yeah.
why, right? We got to understand, get some context, some background, what's going on. So when it's our problem, oh, that's even worse. Oh, fuck. What did I do? Hey, I got an argument with X, Y, and Z, and they said A, B, and C, and I just don't feel good about that. Your friend will be like, well, who the hell is X, Y, and Z? And you're like, well, there's a whole backstory to that. I got to tell you that backstory first. Then let me tell you 7 other stories. And you've told them like 27 minutes worth of shit. And they're like, why are you mad? It seems like this person isn't even in your circle of interest, right? Like, but you don't understand. Like, let me tell you the whole story again. And they're like, oh.
Yeah. Does it just drive you up the walls when you and someone are having a disagreement, an argument, some kind of misunderstanding, and they give you the silent treatment? Is that like the worst thing? Does that like make you feel really rough? Because it's one of the hardest things for me to do. It's like if I'm having some kind of issue with another person and they're not willing or ready to talk about it, that's a really hard time for me because my brain can make up so many stories.
Yes, and I think I don't know if it's my anxiety, my fact I was abandoned. Like I'll message, so people get very upset with me, especially women. I'll message, hey, what you up to? And if they don't respond within like hour or two, I just unsend it. Especially if I'm not dating them, right? And I just met them. And then why'd you unsend it? Like, well, obviously you were busy, and then obviously you didn't want to read it. Well, I was going to respond. No, you weren't.
You don't know that.
I know, but I'm just telling you how I feel. Fucker. No, you're not going to argue for these bitches, are you? You son of a bitch. Rudy's like, I'm a feminist. You don't know what they're doing. They could be busy, their parents, their mothers, you asshole. Yeah, that's what they said. But then it was also me, right? Like, I don't know. There's so many things going on in the world. There's so many ways people act. There's so many triggers you have. And so when you get to a point where you've been triggered in a way, or you've seen a pattern, or I start seeing a pattern, I guess that's where I just shut down. And so for me, with my Asperger's and picking up everything, and I had one girlfriend, Matt. I used to tell her how long we had sex. That was 17 minutes today. That wasn't too bad. She'd be like, how the fuck why are you saying this? Well, look, you set your phone down. It was 9:03, and then I turned the music off, and it was 9:20. That's simple fucking math. He's like, why are you looking at the? I'm not meaning to. It's on the screen.
I counted the number of times I had sex with a girlfriend in a year. She knew that I was doing this, but I have a counter for the amount of times we had sex in an entire year, and I was like, oh, that's kind of fun. She was also like, that's weird, but I'm like,
yeah, you're like me. You're like, hey, we've had sex 472 times this year on average of about 1.42. That's up 7% from last year. And she's like, I don't want to be a part of this presentation.
Yeah. I don't want our sex to be in the black, whatever that means. And I will say we were above the national average. I was like, okay, we don't even live together. We're above the national average. Life is good.
What the fuck? I'm mad that this was a real conversation because I see myself. So when I was married, me and my wife, she's like, we're gonna have sex every day.
There you go.
Right, and then it got boring. Like we got to like 3 weeks, and I was just like, it's okay, go to bed. She's like, no, come here, let me suck your dick. And I'm, whoa, just go to bed. It's okay. Like, I don't want this to like be like, hey, I didn't do it. See, my calendar went off. We didn't do it today. Come on. And that was patronizing even more. And I'm like, I feel like you got a timer at 11.
Yeah.
I don't like that either. I don't.
My dick doesn't rise with the sun.
Yeah.
It's not on this.
Yeah, and that I've there's a balance to that, I think, because there's neurodivergence, right? Like we want you to keep track, but we don't want you to keep track if you usually don't keep track.
Right. Well, I mean, it's all about getting into the flow state, right? And sex, like anything else, is best when you're in flow, when it's like in the moment. You're like, oh, I got to the places I needed to be, kind of not even trying. And that was how did I do that? And that's kind of the same process is comedy. If you think about it, it's like, how did I get to that really good spot? It's by doing the things I knew I needed to do beforehand that make it more possible to get to that spot. If that does that make sense?
Yeah, I got in trouble. I got fired for saying that, but I remembered I was selling timeshare. So he was like, picking up chicks is just like, sales. The more you shoot at, the closer you'll get to a target.
Yeah, totally. I mean, it's
They're
like
like
just
that's misogynistic. No, it isn't. If you want to get laid, walk up to all the women in the bar, ask to get laid.
if you're
Somebody will say yes. If not, you can cut to the chase, or you cannot. And like they're like, that was inappropriate. You said this. What part was inappropriate? There was no. I didn't say if men want to get laid, women can get laid too. Like, what was inappropriate here? It was. Never mind.
Well, that's on the social cues, and most people aren't used to speaking with someone in such a direct manner. I think I've been told that. I've been told that by people I've been dating on numerous occasions, that like the things I say are kind of weird. And it's like, oh, they're like, you don't have to be so honest. And I'm like, oh, well, I shouldn't say every thought that comes into my mind. Okay, darn it.
All right, or you could keep some of that inside.
Yeah, I'm like, yeah, what? I thought we were talking.
No, what I usually say is, do you know there's stuff I do keep inside, right? Like,
Yeah.
this was the stuff I filtered that I thought was good.
This has gone through 7 layers to get to you.
You know how many filtered fucking pills I said? Like, George Care fucking filtered fucking pills I went through before I was like, your pussy stinks. Like that was the clean filtered version of what I had to say to this lady at the office. There's 7 other things I was thinking about, right?
Office. I don't think you were meant for that job.
I love it. So it's funny, and I can't wait till I can do that on stage. But I did some of it this past weekend. But that's the difference, I think, when you're doing your comedy, you're talking, and you say things like that, and people are on stage like, "Did he really say that?" And you're like, "Well, I mean, I did. I mean, I didn't. I mean, you know what? I'm on stage. That's why
Yeah.
I'm telling you these jokes. Obviously, there's something wrong with me."
Last night we had a comedian's holiday party at one of the comedians' house, and he's a dentist, so he has a nice house. We went to their family's house, and there's all these kids running around, and I was like, it feels like we're ruining someone's memories. It feels like we're in the midst of someone's childhood memories, and a bunch of weird neurodivergent people are just yelling curse words in front of a fake fireplace, and they're going to be like, and then all these sad hairy people showed up and said dick.
Yeah, that is exactly what happened. Remember when we were kids and our parents thought they were partying and be like, "Hey, wake up, do that dance for us."
There's a bunch of adults around. I'm those adults now. We are those adults, those weird adults with all these. I was like, oh my gosh, we are psychos, but it felt good.
It felt good. It's funny to me you bring that up because when I raised my kids for a while, and I don't have them anymore, unfortunately. But when I had them, there was learning my kids were like me. So, like, Kalia May would not shut the fuck up in class. It's a kindergarten, right? And even preschooler. Why? Because does anybody know what color? It's orange. It's orange. It's orange. Hey, I said it was orange. Orange, 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 orange. And you dancing. You get it? Yeah.
Got the orange dance.
Yeah. Now I want for the rest of the day is orange, and then tomorrow we learn about blue. Though we learn blue, so tomorrow's blue. And all right, and then
stuck on orange.
It's fuck orange. But not only that, but to see the enthusiasm that gets lost because people don't know how to handle that energy of a kid. To see. Luckily, Kalia had some good teachers, and she had a parent that would stand up for me and my ex-wife, right? And I'd come in and be like, what is wrong with her? Well, she has great, cool, I've been in here. She's not aggressive. She's not violent. She wants interaction. She wants to be taught. Teach her something. I don't know if people get that
Right.
just because your kid is rambunctious and a distraction and overzealous and all these bad words that they want to use, really what your kid is full of energy.
Yeah.
Your kid is actually engaged. And what's going to end up happening, especially if they're not diagnosed or with the right people or with somebody who can handle them, is they lose that energy.
Mm-hmm.
And I think that's the worst part about what we deal with and who we are is if you're neurodivergent as a kid and you don't know and you're not being properly supported, or you get to college and you don't know and you don't have that support, you lose your drive. They lose that energy. This kid's been playing with fucking trains his whole life and wanted to be a train engineer for his whole life. But he had one teacher who wouldn't take the time to deal with him or kicked him out the class because he's too much of a know-it-all or too loud. And now this kid no longer wants to build trains. That's fucking horrible. Do you get what I'm getting at here? Like that's
it's because people in the system don't know how to deal with atypical learners, that so much is lost and so many people's dreams and desires get tossed to the side. It's so sad. And it's good that now there finally are support systems like the place I've worked for, or resource classrooms that are more equipped to work with atypical learners. My mom also worked in special needs classes my whole life, so I've been in and out of those classrooms as well, like working with the resource classes in high schools. I've worked as a sub in those classrooms as well. So
and what is atypical learning? I hate it when we use words that people may not know.
Well, the special needs classrooms, resource classes, special education, any of those classes in a typical middle, elementary, or high school that everyone with learning disability goes to.
And I want to pause there because it's not always learning disability. When you say it, we have a disability, we might actually be learning faster.
Totally.
And I want, and I'm not. I only say that because that's what I was doing. I was getting taken out of class and then getting taught shit that was in middle school and high school as an elementary kid, right? Because that's how they could entertain me, right? I can remember doing fractions in kindergarten. Because you'll remember this. Remember when we were kids in elementary, you had the colored books, right? And first grade got like the teal, and second grade got the red and the blue, the workbooks we'd work in, right? I was in the 5th grade workbook in fucking kindergarten.
There you go.
Me and 2 other little Asian kids. Right, we do the social part of kindergarten in 1st grade because we in kindergarten we got skipped to 1st grade, so we do the social part of the day, and then the second half of the day they'd go teach us in these advanced books. And I can remember getting on the bus and because I was a big kid anyways, but the kids that were in 4th and 5th grade would be like, "How do you have my book?" And I'd be like, "Well, that's the one I work on in my portable," and they just look at me like, "How?" Right, and so I think and I don't say all of us are advanced, but atypical learners doesn't mean they're actually behind. I just wanted to make sure people know that atypical learners can be kids that are getting pulled out because they're advanced. They're getting pulled out because they're going to do their work in 10 minutes and then we got to entertain them, right? So just so people don't know, just because we're in the portable doesn't mean everybody's doing it. Some kids are just playing Nintendo all day because they're their work's done. Right?
Totally.
They have that reward system. I hate the reward system now in atypical. Do you want a bag of chips or soda? You had a good day.
But sometimes a reward is just what's available. You know what I mean? Like the people who are working in those environments also need to figure out ways to manage the day with students. A lot of the time with students, when they were going through something really challenging, it's like, I'm just trying to help you get through right now. What can we do right now to help you move forward and get past this challenge? Because sometimes it is as simple as regulating your blood sugar. Sometimes it is as simple as eating a little bit of food. Sometimes it does help just to take a few breaths or go for a walk. Because when you're in the grind, when you're in the thick of it, and you don't always know how to handle these heavy emotions. Like we go back to talking about myself personally, that kind of thing also happens in so many of the students I've worked with. And it's like, okay, how are you going to deal with this right now? And maybe you can't do it every time, but I'm here right now, or whoever else is here right now. What can we do? So sometimes it may come across, the support systems in place may come across as condescending or uninformed, because a lot of times people are uninformed. Even the people who work in these classrooms, probably particularly the people who work in the classroom sometimes, are just hired because they're the only person who applied for the job. And so we just have to work together to see what works for people on an individual basis. That's what I've learned in all of these classrooms. It's like you have to take the time to want to work with somebody in a one-on-one capacity. And that's why I like podcasts in this format, is because you get to know people a little more.
And that's, I'm glad you brought that. Great segue. You're reading my mind, Rudy. We got to do this again. I kind of like you.
Right
I'm
on.
a little smitten kitten over here, Rudy.
You can be on mine.
Right. But I think that's kind of why I do this. And that's what I'm trying to get at, is this, and you don't understand it until you've been it, right? Like, school is a waste of time for a lot of neurodivergents. And what I mean by that is a lot of neurodivergent people aren't going to follow the traditional pathway to a career, right? Not only are they going to not follow a typical pathway to career, but they're not socially understanding cues. They're not getting right. They're not getting the same experience that they are as everybody else. And I like to call them the normies, right? And not that anybody's normal, but a lot of these people are. A lot of these people may be on the spectrum, but it's not affecting them, or they're hiding it, or they're being accommodated or supported. And I love how everybody's like, it seems like everybody's this way. And I'm like, no, because there's a lot of assholes out there that I can tell are. There's a lot of you people that are just assholes, right? So no, we're not all neurodivergent. Everybody isn't neurodivergent. If you haven't met somebody who's really neurodivergent and know it, then you'll understand that, yeah, a lot of you people are just normal. You're suck faces. You live through your life at a you get what I mean? But you
sucking through your face.
Yeah, you're sucking up all the air. Something's wrong with me. My daddy didn't love me, but I had everything I needed to be a good person, and I haven't done it. I don't know why, but please don't do that for me, right? Like, those are suck faces, right? And so I know I'm making up new derogatory terms for Karens as we go. But what I mean is that I feel like these kids, these adults, these entertainers, we're doing our best to guide kids all in the same path. And with like neurodivergency, there's a higher propensity for LGBTQ. There's a higher propensity for a lot of different things that are more liberal and non-traditional, because of the lack of social understanding or social constructs, right?
Mm-hmm.
So why not free those people earlier, right? Why not have a neurodivergent high schools where kids can start cooking and start learning how to do trades? And I think that's where the neurodivergents find their, like, the trade school is for us. Right.
Mm-hmm.
I like to be an electrician. I want to be an engineer. Like, that's what trade school is, right? It teaches you a certain thing you like to do, and you just do that for the rest of your life. We don't even really talk about trade schools in school, right? Because it's such a gimmick, and it's the American dream and hustle to sell a college education, right? So there's all these different things that, if you would just sit down and give a kid some options, or tell them, or find out about the kid, and I think I know what we need to do, Rudy. We need to be career guidance counselors.
I've been an academic advisor. I'm gonna apply to some more jobs this week at the community college. And you talked about trade schools. That's what community colleges do a lot, is they help train people for real jobs. And that's who I worked with. I worked with a lot of students that were going down that path. The hard thing with working with a lot of neuro or atypical learners is that, yes, they want to work in these fields, but then they do need a lot of that support to take the steps to get into those fields, because there's so much red tape and there's so many hoops you got to jump through. And so that's what the job of a counselor or a guidance, a support, somebody on that support team does. And I think community colleges are pretty good for that, actually. There's a lot of services available that want to help their students at community colleges.
Stop lying. They're all just trying to steal your money. They're all like DeVry. Sorry.
That too, yeah. Mostly it's DeVry. I blame DeVry.
Anybody can get a degree from University of Arizona Mining Field Company Institute out of Podunk, Arizona, where
North
classes only.
Yeah. Yeah, some of these technical colleges, yeah, are a little more dubious.
Well, you know what time it is. You know what happened, don't you? It's
What
been
happened?
an hour.
It's been an hour.
It's
Wow.
been an hour. We might have to have you on. Well, we'll have you on Dating with Disabilities here in a little bit. Tell us a little bit about what you got going on. Where can they find you? What are you doing? You mentioned you have a podcast, or you're starting a podcast. Tell us about Rudy. Where can we find Rudy?
I am starting I've recorded 3 episodes of a podcast. It's about the intersection between comedy and health. And I have been certified as a personal trainer. So I love the gym. I love working out. I want to talk with comedians about health and how it has been a part of their lives. And the podcast is called Jokes in the Gym. And I'll be starting next month. So keep your eyes peeled for that in December of 2023.
And actually, that's this month. It's the December 2nd.
Oh yeah, it is. It'll be later this month, mid month.
If you can't tell, he's a little bit overpacking his schedule here. He's like, yeah, sure. Fuck. I guess it'll be out next month. You son of a.
Gotta figure it out.
You said you're in Eugene, Oregon, right? What part of Oregon? Where can people find you for live comedy? We have 15 viewers all over the globe. Okay.
Eugene, Oregon. This Wednesday, I'm co-headlining over at Big City Gaming with Seth Milstein, so that'll be fun. And I'm at Max's on January 3rd here in Eugene as well. So doing shows around town and getting on the road when I can.
Yeah, we might have to get you up to Seattle. Well, I give you gas money. That's about all I get because I don't make a ton of money. But you'll get gas money, and I got a couch.
Love it. I love it. I'd love to do more shows out of town. So yeah, let's hook it up. I'd be delighted.
You'd be delighted. Well, it's been Rudy Tyburczy, everybody. I got it right the second time, right? I think I got a little bit closer.
Nailed it.
Rudy Tyburczy, everybody. I've been your host, Duante Barnett. We got Dating with Disabilities in 2 weeks. Don't forget, Def Comedy Jam is a go. We're looking for sponsors. We're looking for food trucks. Tickets are for sale. 4/20/2024, Rainier Arts Event Center. Not only that, but you can always tune in. And I don't know, did you know this? On Fridays, 98.3 KMWV plays Suitman Productions.
Look at that.
The Greater Western Willamette, what is it, Lower Mid Willamette Valley or whatever. But yeah, we're on the radio. So
moving on up.
If you didn't have anything to do, right? Yeah, we're moving. That's definitely got. Never mind. We're gonna leave that one. We're on the radio. And then, who listens to radio? Fuck you! Don't say that. Be positive, right? Be positive. If you're ever in the Greater Portland area, Willamette Valley, that's almost down to Eugene. When you drive up to Portland on a Friday night at 9 p.m., it's not a good time to be on the radio. But if you are in your car listening, you can catch us at Smooth 98.3 KMWV. Hey, I got a radio voice. That was pretty good.
They got to hire you, Duante. They got to put you on the air more than just Fridays at 9 when nobody's listening.
Hey, damn it. He said it. I didn't. But anyway, it's on Spotify, YouTube, Apple iTunes, all those shits, right? And even on 98.3. Thank you for tuning in. Have a great Sunday, and we'll see you guys soon.
Rock on.